Welcome to Polity and Governance with Dr. RK. Let's begin. Many of you have asked me some pertinent questions, like how do we understand the Constitution given its nature and scope? To address this and related questions, you must understand the structure of the Indian Constitution, not just as facts, but as a framework that helps you decode questions and retain concepts better. Many aspirants struggle with polity because they see the Constitution as a collection of random articles and amendments. But remember, there is a pattern, there is a logical flow. So, instead of memorizing 450 plus articles blindly, we'll use logic, mnemonics, and tricks to understand the Constitution's framework. Let's start with the blueprint, and let's break down the Constitution. Take our Constitution as a well-designed building. Every part has a function, and let's go step by step. The first thing, the preamble. The preamble you understand as the identity card of India. Imagine walking into a building and seeing a mission statement on the wall. That's what the preamble is. It defines India's core values. And what are these values? These values are sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. So you can memorize them by putting the first letter using S, and DR. That means sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. Here is a prelims alert for you. As I told you in previous videos also, the 42nd Amendment 1976 has added socialist, secular, and integrity. These three terms you remember, SSI, socialist, secular, and integrity. The preamble, you need to remember one more thing. The preamble is not legally enforceable, but is used for interpretation. Remember, preamble is used for interpretation and it's not legally enforceable. So UPSC may ask you a question. For example, which of the following words were added to the preamble through an amendment? So remember this 42nd Amendment 1976. Let's move to the second part. What was the first part? The preamble. We call it the identity card of India. Second part, the parts of the Constitution. This is the foundation of this building, okay? This has got 22 parts. Each part is like a pillar holding up the governance structure. So imagine these parts. So first part is concerned with power of the people, and second is power of the government, third, power of the judiciary, fourth, guiding principle, and the most important pillar of this constitution is called the elections. So let's understand these 5 parts one by one. Power of the people include 2 important parts, Part 3 and Part 4A. Part 3 we have already discussed fundamental rights, and Part 4A includes fundamental duties which were added by 42nd Amendment. Second important pillar, or you can say power center of the Constitution, is the power of the government. It includes Part 5th and Part 6. Part 5th includes the President, Prime Minister, and Parliament. And Part 6 is inclusive of state government. That again in turn includes Governor, CM, state legislature. Third important power center of the Constitution is the judiciary. It has got 2 parts. Again, those 2 parts which we mentioned earlier. Which 2 parts? Part 5th and 6th. So under these 2 parts, we have Supreme Court in Part 5th and High Court in Part 6. Okay. So the last pillar of this in constitutional framework is the guiding principle, and we have got 2 important parts here. Part 4, that is Directive Principles of State Policy, we call it as DPSP, and Part 9 and 9A, that include Panchayati Raj and municipalities, which were added by 73rd and 74th Amendment. So remember, these 4 parts are the 4 power center of the constitutions. And as I said, 4 parts here means not the constitutional part. These 4 pillars, you can understand it. These 4 pillars include these parts which I just described, and the most important pillar now we have is elections, which is Part 15, and it deals with election commission and people's voting pattern and how the electoral system is going to function. So here is the UPSC trick for you. Many aspirants mix up fundamental rights and DPSPs. Here is a trick. Fundamental rights, you need to remember, are for protecting citizens from government, whereas DPSPs are functioning as guidance to government. So these DPSPs guide government to help citizens. And there is a common UPSC questions you may get in exam. Which part deals with the separation of the judiciary from the executive? Answer will be DPSP under Article 50. There can be one more questions like which amendment introduced Panchayati Raj? You need to remember 73rd Amendment 1992. So we are done with two important parts of this well-designed building: preamble and some important power centers. The third important aspect of the structure of the Constitution of India is the schedules, which we can call secret codes. Schedules are like appendices, extra details that clarify the Constitution, and it includes most important schedules. So what are the most important schedules for UPSC? Schedule 1, 3, 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So 7, 9, 10, and 12 these are hot favorites for prelims. Schedule 1, as you can see on the screen, includes the name of the states and union territories. Schedule 3, oaths of offices for president, governors, and judges. Schedule 7 deals with union, state, and concurrent lists, heart of federalism. Schedule 9 was added by First Amendment 1951. It protects laws from judicial review. And Schedule 10 deals with anti-defection law, which was added by 52nd Amendment 1985. Schedule 11 and 12 are concerned with Panchayati Raj and municipalities. All right. So as I told you, remember 7, 9, 10, and 12 schedules. Schedule 9 controversy, you need to remember with reference to Keshan and Bharti case. So what is that? This case ruled that laws under it can be challenged in court. So here is a question again for you. UPSC may ask sometimes in simplistic manner or as a part of any other option or matching criteria, which schedule contains the union, state, and concurrent list? It's 7th schedule. So simplistically, if you follow a logical pattern, then there is no difficulty in understanding the Constitution. But if you keep memorizing articles, you will be lost in the field of articles. So the next step for us to decode the Constitution is the amendments. And that tells us about the evolution of the Constitution. A Constitution is a living document. Remember this. It's not static. So it adapts with time through amendments. There are certain important amendments, and you need to remember for prelims. First Amendment, 42nd Amendment, 44th Amendment, 52nd Amendment, 73rd and 74th Amendments. 1 of 5th Amendment. So all these, as you can see on the screen, First Amendment, which happened in 1951, added the 9th schedule to protect land reforms. 42nd Amendment is also called the mini constitution, made major changes during emergency. 44th Amendment 1978, emergency powers of 42nd Amendment. All right, you need to understand the difference between 42nd Amendment and 44th Amendment Act, which we will be dealing with later. 52nd Amendment happened in 1985 and introduced anti-defection law. 10th schedule. 73rd and 74th Amendments 1992 introduced Panchayati Raj and municipalities. So remember 11th and 12th schedule. So 101st Amendment 2016, it introduced GST in India, the most important from prelims point of view. And 105th Amendment 2021 restored state power to identify OBCs. So these two latest amendments you need to remember. What should be your strategy for prelims? Focus on major amendments that changed governance. Don't remember each and every amendment. You will be going through a futile exercise if you do so. What you are supposed to remember is your focus should be on major amendments that change the structure of the governance, or at least that brought about change in governance. Understand the difference between, as I told you earlier, between 42nd and 44th amendments. There can be a common UPSC question, very generally asked, which amendment restored the fundamental rights diluted by the 42nd Amendment? You need to remember it's 44th Amendment, 1978. So that is the structure, and this structure includes what? 4 elements. First element is what? First element is the preamble, that is the identity card of India. Second element, the parts of the constitution, where we imagine the constitution as a building kind of thing, and each and every part is a kind of pillar. We went through 4 power centers of the constitution: power of the people, power of the government, power of the judiciary, and guiding principles. And then the third element was the schedules. We understood it as the secret codes to unlock the constitution. These are the important schedules for UPSC. And the fourth most important element of this structure of the constitution is the amendment. We understood it through we understood as the evolution of the constitution, and mostly we understand the evolution of the constitution in terms of amendments. So remember these important amendments. How do you retain this structure for prelims? So I hope the structure of the Indian constitution is very much clear to you. All right, you can pause and you can take a look at the 4 elements of the structure. That will give you clarity. More than this, if you are struggling, then that will be a waste of time, because constitution is not a mysterious document. It's a very logically ordered document, and you can easily understand the logical pattern. So how do we retain this? As I told you, visualize it like a building. Imagine entrances, preamble, parts as floors. Every floor has got power centers, and schedules as utility rooms, extra details. Imagine this. And amendments are nothing but renovations, Every time you are bringing some changes and then making it better in look. Just like, we are renovating buildings occasionally. So here is a mnemonic for you. If you want, you can make use of it. Freedom Judges Guide, Social Justice. So what does it include? Fundamental rights, judiciary, DPSPs, social welfare schedules. If you have any alternate mnemonics, you can go ahead with that. But this is very easy to remember. So to retain the structural aspect of the Constitution, remember, UPSC repeats themes, not exact questions. So revise these previous year's question papers with mock tests and identify your weak areas and work on them. You need to remember, understanding the structure of the Constitution is like having a Google map for polity. So if you understand the constitutional structure and its logic behind it, you have got Google map with all kinds of hints and suggestions. It's a roadmap for Indian polity and governance. You won't get lost in articles and clauses anymore if you understand this Google map called the Constitution, or the structure of the Constitution. So what you are supposed to do next until we meet again? Read the Constitution's table of contents. It's your best friend. Don't believe any other notes or anything else. Just directly download the Bare Act, read table of contents, and you will get the structure of the Constitution very clearly. That's it for now. See you in the next session. Keep learning. Stay sharp.